Hi everyone, now let's start with if statement in Python. In this video, we will understand the core concept of if statement with these true and false boolean values, and we will move towards the expression condition in the if statement, and we will understand how does these kind of conditions eventually relate with those true and false boolean values. And we will see everything with a visual execution like this, which will make the concept of if statement really clear to you. And we will see how does a bool method plays a role in the if statement and what happens when you place a direct value after this if or elif keyword. So first let's start its syntax. Yeah, so guys, this is a core syntax of a if statement. So a if statement always begin with a if keyword follows by a true or false boolean value. So these boolean value could be a direct true or false boolean values, or it might be derived from an expression. So how do they derive from expression? If you look at over here, in this expression C equality operator 10, it is driving a true boolean value. So all the expressions driving into some value, some expression like which contains these comparison operators drives a boolean value true or false, and there are some expression like this expression with a or operator drives directly a value, or even a direct value is also a expression. So if in case this if keyword meets with this kind of a expression, like we can write down like this over here, like C, let's write the same expression. So what's happening? So it is returning into a true boolean value. That means after this if keyword, indirectly we are meeting with a true or false boolean value with the help of this kind of a expression, or it meets if it meets expression like this which is a direct value, or a expression like this which returns some value. So in that case what will happen, a if statement implicitly will apply a bool method on that value, and that x value will be returned again into a true or false boolean value. So the core logic is that after this if keyword, either it will meet with a true or false direct boolean values or returned by a expression boolean values, or if in case there is a another return value with a expression, in that case bool method will be applied, and then again we will meet with a true or false boolean value. So after this if keyword we always meet with a true or false boolean value. So once that expression get completed, we apply a colon, and then we goes in a next line, and that next line begin with a new indentation. So as per convention, this new indentation should be contains the four spaces. So let's count those spaces. So 1 2 3 4. So if we are using a editor, automatically the moment you will press enter like this, you see automatically cursor came after this four in spaces. But if in case you are meeting a command line kind of environment, so after pressing the enter, you can use the tab key. Tab key creates the four spaces. And then whenever after this if keyword we meets with a false boolean value, so whatever the lines are they are part of that if block. If block means the whatever the things after this colon came with a new indentation and are in a continuation like this becomes a whole block. So let's see some of the big example of that. So you see this is a whole if statement. So this is a one block, so this is a another block. So we understand this part just after this. So now over here this is a block. So all the lines, if it in case if keyword is meeting with a false boolean value, so all the lines of that block will be skipped. And if in case if keyword is meeting with a true boolean value, in that case all the lines of that block will be executed. So now let's understand this thing with a visual execution. This part. So when I have executed the line number 1, so I create the variable c, which is giving the value of 10. And focus, right now the value of c is 10, and when I'm going with a true boolean value in the if statement, so then I'm going inside in the block. So I execute this line, and then on this line I'm changing the value of variable c. So here the value which was 10 now has changed after the execution line number 5, value has been now 20. Now we printed this new line, and then we printed the value of c, as value of c in the memory was 20, so we got a in output 20. Now look at what happens when we execute these lines of code with a false boolean value. So here let's execute this. If you look at the moment we meet with a false boolean value after this if keyword, immediately all these lines inside that block was skipped. We came out of that block, and now notice down what will the value of c. So let's execute this line. So we got this line, the output. Now the value of c remained 10. Why? Because we never went inside in this block. So here we skip these two lines of code execution, and that happens based on a condition which is true or false. If the condition is false, then we will skip the code execution of few lines. If the condition is true, so those lines will be executed. So guys, now let's understand the logic of elif blocks in the if statements. So the logic of a elif blocks in a if statement is that whenever in the whole if statement, as execution goes from top to bottom, so whenever we will meet a first true condition in this whole context, so that block will run, and rest others below of that block will be skipped immediately. So let's run this whole code. See now what has happened. So we got only this if variable printout, and apart from that we did not get any printout, because so the moment in this whole code execution flow which goes from top to bottom, the moment we'll meet a true condition, that block will be executed, rest others will be skipped. So let me show you with the execution. Let's say outside of if statement, and let me show you what happens. So let's go with a line by line code execution. So you see, because after this if keyword we were meeting a true boolean value, so we went inside, we execute that block, and then we immediately came out of that, and then we execute whatever the lines were there out of that if statement. But now let's do one thing. Let's turn these values with a false. So now what will happen as per our logic? Think about that, and let's run the code. So see what has happened. We ran the second elif block. So as per logic, the moment we will meet our true condition, that block will run, and rest other will be skipped. And if we will meet with all if and elif block with a false condition, then only our else block will run. So now you see what's happening. Now you get a point of this elif block in the if statement. So guys, now when we understand this, so let's see how can we create a grading system two ways. So our grading system is this: if a student obtains marks more than 70, then he gets a grade A. If he gets marks between 50 and 70, then he gets grade B. And if his marks is between 30 and 50, then he gets grade C. And if his marks is less than 30, then he will be failed. So I have created if the whole logic two ways. One way is this, where I have hard coded the whole ranges, and this is the another way where I have used the core if and elif logic. So to understand this part is really easy, as like this is a kind of a hard coding thing, so you will understand that when we will get which uh, grade. But over here we need to understand that elif logic. If you understand elif logic, then you understand this part of code. Guys, now let's understand this code with a better visibility. So now I have added this obtained marks as 55. So let's say a student has scored a 55 marks. So if you look at now what will happen, so when if a statement will be executed, so now this expression obtained marks is greater than 70 with the value of 55 will return into a what? Into a false boolean value, right? So whenever we meet our false boolean value, we skip that part. So these are all expressions which will return into a true or false boolean value. So let's see with the visual execution this part. You see now we have created this obtained marks into a memory which is referring to a value 55. So now in our if statement, in our if block, now we check with this expression over here, and this expression will return with the value of 55 into a false boolean value. So we went check to the our next block, and now in this next block, now with the value of 55 of obtained marks, this expression will return into a what? True boolean value. So as per logic, we will go inside in that block and we will execute whatever inside is there. So inside there was only one command, print b. So we got output b. So we have met our true condition over here. So as per logic, in if and elif blocks from top to bottom flow, whenever we will meet our first true condition, then whatever the blocks are there below will be skipped immediately once that block will be executed. So that's what happened. So now we came out and we execute the whatever was there outside of that if statement. Now you understand what happened, how we have created a whole grading system. Now let's change the marks to 30. So now what will happen? In this case, we will meet a true condition over here, right? So let's see with the visual execution with this part also. So you see we went, so this is expression returned to a false condition, then and this expression return again into a false condition, but now with the marks 30, this expression now will return with a true condition. So immediately we will go inside, we'll execute that and we'll skip that whole block, right? Now if marks will be less than 20, then all the if and elif block will return into a false boolean value, right? So what will happen? Let's see with the quick look. So all the blocks got skipped. So we went inside in the else block, because theory of this that whenever all blocks if and elif blocks meets with a false boolean value, then only else got executed. So that's the reason else comes in the last. So we got this printout failed, and then we got out of if block. So we have created successfully our grading system. So with the marks, we will get our different grades. So if the marks, let's say make it 80. So with the 80 marks, we got a grade A. If the marks will be, let us 75. So on 75 again, grade, there is a grade A. If marks is 65, then grade is B. So we have created a successful grading system with the help of our if statement, and we have applied a collect logic. So whereas we could have hard coded these ranges also, in this way it would have been correct, but when now we know how if a statement for flow works, so we made it with a less number words of code. So I hope that makes you clear all the things, right, about if and elif and else logic. So guys, now let's get started with Boolean values in Python. Boolean values, true and false, are the base of if statements as well as while loop and many other base concepts in Python. So in this video, first we'll understand the different objects, Boolean values, and then how do we relate with those Boolean value concept with if statements. So once you have understanding that, then this if statements and while loop will become really easy for you. So let's get started with this. So if you look at, I have defined the like numbers for 0 will be having a boolean value false, and any other number will be having a boolean value true. Even that it's true for even for the negative values. So let's see what I'm trying to say over here. So to check a boolean value of any object, we have this bool method. So let's say now I want to check the boolean value of number 0. So let's see that, and let's see what the result I am getting. So I'm getting false because that's what I told you, that 0 is having a false boolean value. Apart from that, any other number will be having a, so let's say 4, and let's say boolean value of -4. So any other number will be having a boolean value true. So same way all the other concepts are same, like strings. Empty string will be having a boolean value false, and apart from empty string, a boolean other strings will be having a boolean value true, even if there is a space only in a string. So let's say I have a empty string. So empty string, sorry, yeah, is, is having a boolean value false, and now I have created a empty string, but now I'm giving a space character, and when I'll run this, so I got a true because this is not an empty string. This string is having a space character in it. And then same way, list, tuple, dictionary, if they are empty ones, they will having a false boolean value, and any of these sequence types, if they are having a any value inside them, then they will be having a true boolean value. So what do I mean is that, so let's say if you look at the boolean value of an empty list will is false, whereas boolean value, if this list contains any item, even if it is 0, which is having a boolean value of false, then still that boolean value of that list will be true. So all these sequence types of list tuple will be having a false boolean value, all the empty one of these, and if they are having any even a single item in that, so that particular list tuple set dictionary will be associated with a true boolean value, and none is having a false boolean value. So let's see that their implication, that how they happen. So let's say, so whenever we know that after if a statement, if there's a true boolean value, if it meets it, then it goes inside in that block and execute whatever inside that. So over here it went inside and it execute this print statement, where when after if there was a one number, so what happens, this one will be converted into a true or false boolean value, whatever the boolean value it is associated with, as number 1 is number 1. So apart from 0, any other number is having a true boolean value. So that's the reason we got a pass. So we went inside in this block. So what happens, so automatically after if statement, if the it execute with this particular bool method, so it converts into a true or false as per the object boolean value. Then if the value is true, then this statement will be executed. If value is false, then that block will be skipped. So as over here, the 0 is having a false boolean value. So because whenever after if a statement, if it will meet a false boolean value, so that block will be skipped. So that's the reason we did not get any output. Again, none is having a false boolean value, so we did not get any output. Same happened with the empty list. So as empty list is having a false boolean value, so we did not get any output. As over here in this if statements, this list contains one item. So if a list is not empty, so that means that will be converted into a true boolean value, and this block got executed. So we got this pass. So this is the whole concept of boolean values in regards with if statement. So you need to have a proper understanding of these boolean values. So now you just remember this particular. So any number apart from 0 will be having a true boolean value. Any string which is not a empty string will be having a true boolean value. Any empty list, tuple, set, and dictionary, if they are empty one, then they will have a false boolean value, and apart from that they will be having a true boolean value, and a null object is associated with a false boolean value. So thanks guys for watching this video, and please provide a positive feedback in the comment section. And let me know in the comments if you want me to create a new video on any specific topic. If you have learned something new, please like the video and subscribe this channel, as there will be some new video releases every week, and this will be a huge support for me.